Tashlam Hey, 1975. Regarding, actually, maybe not 1974. 1974. Regarding Parshas Haazinu, sometimes we read Haazinu between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Shabbos Shuvah, and sometimes, like this year, we read Haazinu between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. So it's known, similar subject we were learning about yesterday, but this time another angle of the same subject. It's known, especially among Chassidim, the great wondrous virtue of this Torah portion. As a previous Rebbe shared that the Mizitche Magid told his students that they should memorize Parshas Haazinu. And he said this doesn't only affect your spirituality, it also affects the material things in your life in the simple sense. And he added, Mizitche Magid added in his instruction, the previous Rebbe shared, poor Yonatan, coming right on just to hear this line, he's going to get haunted by this rest of his life. Said it's in Mizitche Magid that if business people would know the tremendous amount of blessing that they could bring down through learning the song of Haazinu by heart, certainly they would do this. That's what Magid said. Now, based upon what we know that was written in many places, that whatever you see in the inner dimension of Torah has a source in the revealed parts of Torah. At least there's a hint. Whatever you see in the inner dimension of Torah, there must be some kind of reflection on that subject in the revealed, the exoteric parts of Torah. Because the inner dimension of Torah is the inner dimension of the revealed part of Torah. So whatever there is in the inner dimension also has to be in the outer dimension, because that's the order in holiness, that the inner dimension and the external dimension are connected to each other. It's not like things are in the world. It's possible in the world that the inner dimension, the outer dimension could be different. Like the Gemara talks about people who aren't, their inside is not like their outside. They could be inside, they could be not sincere, and externally they could look like great tzaddikim. So that's because of the unholiness in this world that could cause a dissonance between the inside and the outside. But in Torah, which is the source and the instruction for all matters of holiness, so Torah is in a way that the inside and the outside are the same. So we find a wondrous thing also about Parshas Haazinu in the revealed parts of Torah. Regarding the order of reading the Torah every Shabbos, that we read 7 aliyahs in one Torah portion, Moshe Rabbeinu established that we should read the Torah in public on Shabbos and Monday and Thursday. And Maimonides writes that the custom is that we finish the whole Torah in every year. Although some people finish the Torah once in 3 years or once in 3.5 years. I don't know if anyone does this today, but the Rambam mentions this custom. And then we make a celebration to complete the Torah. So there's something unique in Parshas Haazinu, which is not in other Torah portions, that in all other Torah portions, it is not said the way the Parsha is divided. We don't find, I'm not sure what that was referring to. It could be that was referring to a source in the Talmud for the division of the Torah portion. Certainly we do divide the Torah portion every week into 7 Torah portions, but maybe that was referring to the earliest source of that division, how it works. I'm not sure. But we don't, regarding Parshas Haazinu, however, we find something unique. We find that it is divided in 7 Torah portions, especially other Torah portions when there's a merger of 2 Torah portions. Certainly, it's not clear. It's the whole way that the Torah portion is divided is different. But regarding Parshas Haazinu, it says in the Gemara, the way the song was sung by the Leviim in the temple, and it says over there that they divided Parshas Haazinu into 6 sections, and they would say one section every Shabbos. Thank you. By the Musaf of Shabbos, they would say one section of Parshas Haazinu every Shabbos. Chaim. And the way it's divided in the Bais Hamikdash by the Levin, when they sang the song, when they brought the special sacrifice for Shabbos, besides the sacrifice brought every day, when they brought the sacrifice of Shabbos, they would sing the song, and the way they would divide it in these 6 sections, that's the way we divide it in shul as well, the same way the Levim did it then in the Bais Hamikdash. Although there are different opinions about what exactly is the meaning of this division, the words of the Talmud are Haziv Lach, that Haziv Lach is an acronym for the 6 sections of the Parshas Haazinu. So there is a discussion about what those 6 sections are, but but according to all opinions, there's a very clear guidance from the Torah, from the Talmud, from the time already of the Bais Hamikdash, how the Torah should be divided. And this is especially relevant to the teaching of the Alter Rebbe. You have to live with the times, live with a section of Torah which has connection to that day. So Parashas Haazinu is set exactly according to the division of the 7 days of the week. So this emphasizes the relationship of Parashas Haazinu to the rest of the year, because in addition to reading this Torah portion this week, it was read throughout the year by the Levites in the Bais Hamikdash when they brought the Karban Musaf. And so too nowadays, regarding the spiritual sacrifices that are offered in the spiritual Bais Hamikdash by our lips, that there's something about Parashas Haazinu having relevance to be said the whole year. What this means is like this. Why is Parashas Haazinu so special? The theme of Parashas Haazinu, as Rashi says, is that God called the heaven and earth to testify that the Jewish people should keep the Torah mitzvahs. He summoned heaven and earth. Heaven and earth, I want you to give witness that the Jewish people should keep the Torah mitzvahs. And therefore, we read this Torah portion after Rosh Hashanah, or after Yom Kippur, which is also called Rosh Hashanah in Tanakh. In the simple sense, all the 10 days of Tshuva, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur are the same content. On Rosh Hashanah, we crown God as our king, and then Yom Kippur is the inner dimension of Rosh Hashanah, or all 10 days of Tshuva are all the same theme. So after this time of Rosh Hashanah, or after the whole 10 days of Tshuva, which has the same theme, we read Parashas Haazinu. What's Parashas Haazinu? It's the testimony, the commitment for keeping the Torah mitzvahs. As the language of the Talmud, God says, and when you accept my sovereignty, then I'll make decrees upon you. What this means in a simple sense, that when we read Parashas Haazinu, we have to have a firm resolve about learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, including not just learning Torah and doing mitzvahs in general, but also in all your ways you should know Him. That you should connect to Hashem in whatever you're doing. That's a decision we have to make when we're making this testimony about our observance of Torah and mitzvahs. We have to take a firm resolve this Shabbos, and this firm resolve on this Shabbos gives power and assists whatever we're going to do the whole year. And Dr. Bressman, and since Parashas Haazinu is a song, and a song is about joy, and that's why the Talmud says that when you could only sing a song to Hashem with wine, because wine brings the joy. And so therefore, whenever there's a commandment to sing a song to Hashem, like when we make Kiddush on Friday night, we have to have wine. So since Parashas Haazinu is a song, and a song brings joy, so this causes the service of Hashem throughout the year to be done with joy, so that the whole year becomes a joyous year. And through this we merit to come to the 10th song that will be when Mashiach will come, after the 9 songs that were sung in history until this point, that we should be able to sing to Hashem the new song, the song that, there are different ways to say song in Hebrew, shir chadash or shir chadasha, in the feminine or in the masculine. And the Talmud explains that the difference has to do with, is the joy something which lasts forever, or joy which does not last forever? So other redemptions, there was a song after redemption, but did not last forever. But the masculine tense of this song indicates that we're talking about a joy that will never ever stop, the coming of Mashiach. May we see this happen, it's recorded mamash speedily in our days mamash. So that's the end of the first section of Farbrengen, explaining the meaning of Parashas Haazinu, how we see also in the real parts of Torah something unique about it, and how this is a song, and our decisions as Shabbos have the power to carry us the rest of the year, and how these decisions this Shabbos have to be done with joy, and this causes joy to the rest of the year. Okay, Rebbe continues now. Now let's learn something unique about the way the year is ordered this year. The Baal Shem Tov says, anything you see in the world, you have to learn a lesson. And how much more so something that Hashem has set up in the calendar to be set up a certain way, certainly is something we're supposed to be learning from this. And it should be something that we all can understand, even with a simple person. Just like when we crowned God as our king, God wanted the simplest people. He didn't want angels. He wanted simple people to crown him as a king. So too, learning about why Parashas Haazinu is specifically after Yom Kippur, not during the 10 days of Tshuva. What is the message? What is we supposed to learn from the fact that Parashas Haazinu is after Yom Kippur? So Yom Kippur, let's first understand a little bit more about Yom Kippur. What's Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur is the perfection in serving Hashem with Teshuvah. Yom Kippur is about serving Hashem perfectly in Teshuvah. As the Rambam says, although it's always good to do Teshuvah, it's always good to cry out to Hashem. Yom Kippur is a time of tshuva for everyone. Therefore, everyone must do tshuva. That's a unique commandment of doing tshuva on Yom Kippur. That if you do tshuva the whole year, but there's a unique commandment to do tshuva on Yom Kippur. Until the last moment of Yom Kippur, at the end of Ne'ilah, when God forgives us for the entire year, not just He forgives us, in language of our prayers, language of Moshe Rabbeinu, God told Moses, I have forgiven them as you have asked. The Jewish people are considered after Yom Kippur like Bali Teshuvah, above Tzaddikim, and not just they're called people who have done Shuvah, they're called Bali Teshuvah, masters of Shuvah. And they're masters on Shuvah, they're masters in the perfection of Shuvah. They're masters on the highest level of Shuvah. That's who we are after Yom Kippur. And after we have reached the absolute perfection, then we come to Parshas Haazinu, that at this time Hashem asks from us an even higher level of Shuvah. As it says in Nekuda Torah in the beginning of Parshas Haazinu, that our sages say a person should always, his whole life, should be doing tshuva. And the Alter Rebbe says, what does that mean? What does tshuva mean? Your whole life you should be doing tshuva. Obviously, it doesn't mean you should be making mistakes every day and regretting them, right? It means, says the Alter Rebbe, Haruach tasher el kim. Your spirit should return to God who has given you your spirit. That's what's supposed to happen in Parshas Haazinu. Let's now unpack that, what that means. It's the highest level of tshuva we've reached, and now Hashem asks us a higher level than the highest level of tshuva. What's going on? Doesn't make sense. How is it possible to have your whole life being devoted to tshuva? The Talmud uses the expression, we're not talking about fools. So for sure, if you're fulfilling already today the mitzvah of doing tshuva, you already done this. So why do you need tshuva? Why do you need to do tshuva again tomorrow? As soon as you wake up in the morning, before you did anything bad, we tell you, you woke up this morning, you did tshuva yesterday, okay, now's another day. Today you have to do tshuva. A similar question you may ask about davening. Why have daven every day with the same words? You already davened yesterday, you already had all the meanings of the davening yesterday, and since the gates of prayer are never closed, for sure, whatever you said yesterday had an impact. So why is it necessary to daven again today? But there's a difference. The difference between doing teshuvah today versus davening today is as follows. Every single day, a person has new needs, and a person has to elevate new things they did not elevate the day before. And therefore, you have to pray again today. You have new needs, you have a new mission today, you have new things you have to encounter today, you have to daven again today. But teshuvah is a spiritual service in your soul. And since you already did teshuvah perfectly yesterday, and you did teshuvah as much as you could, but with the source of your soul, as much as God has given you based upon the source of your soul, you've done teshuvah perfectly. And more, that God promises us in the Torah, in the Rambam, there is nothing that stands in the path of teshuvah. So you for sure did it, and you did it properly. So what's the need to do teshuvah the next day, and not just a moment of the day to do teshuvah, but rather in the language of the Talmud, all of your days you should be doing teshuvah. What's going on? What does that mean? And the answer is very simple. Every single Jew believes that God is infinite, God has no limits, but a human being, a Jew, is only a creature who is limited. And even your neshama, the way it is in heaven, how much more so when the neshama is in a body, even the neshama in heaven is limited. How much more so the way the neshama is in a body. And even if you serve Hashem, b'chol miyedecha means to serve God with all your might. But that's still only with all your might. It's still limited to you. It's your might. Oh, you serve Hashem with all your might, and that might be really a lot for you, but for someone else, that's easy. So we're very limited. And since this is true, no matter how great you are, there's a limitation. And therefore, you always have to, you always can, and you always need to add in your service of God higher and higher. And that's the meaning of the Talmud's instruction to always do tshuva, to always go higher. Doing tshuva means always strive to go higher. Another concept about this is, the Gemara says, don't believe in yourself until your day of death. Because there was a tzaddik, his name was Yechanan Kohen Gadol, he was a high priest. He was served in the temple for 80 years, and at the end of his life, he decided to leave the Kohen Gadol position and to become a tzedukah. and to become a heretic. Why are we told this? We're told this. I mean, why? Huh?
Did he leave the Kohen Gadol?
He didn't leave the Kohen Gadol position? He didn't leave. I'm sorry. Okay, he didn't leave his position. He called the problem, and he stayed a Kohen Gadol as a Tzeduki. Okay. So the question is, why do we need to hear this negative thing about the Kohen Gadol? Why do we need to be told something the opposite of the goodness of the Jewish people? It's in order to teach us a lesson that even someone who's in a very high level, he's similar to Yochanan, the high priest. And now, it says like this: no matter how great you consider yourself, no one will think about themselves that they are on the level of Yochanan, the high priest. He was 80 years going into the Holy of Holies to atone for the Jewish people, right? He's doing this for 80 years. So, if he couldn't believe in himself, how much more so should no one can believe in themselves that they are just the way they are is okay? But you always have to look at yourself and to be humble. And everything in Torah is true. It's not that you're supposed to fool yourself and fool the world around you and to pretend that you're humble, but to actually truly be humble. And since this is true, certainly you will not only enter your mind, the Rebbe says, to force your opinion on everybody else and to turn the world over to get your opinion done, even though you think you have proofs in the Torah, but you shouldn't trust yourself to be, the voice of God. If you know one thing, if you think you're the voice of God, there's an expression in Yiddish, doesn't say it's an expression in Yiddish, when everyone says you're drunk, it's time to go to sleep. So no matter how great you think you are, not Yochanan Kohen Gadol, and even Yochanan Kohen Gadol, he had this downfall at the end of his life. So the instructions of the Gemara again are your whole life should be true. It means true means your whole life should have to go. You need to go higher and higher, and don't believe that where you are is okay. Okay, you always have to be humble and not be so bold to consider your position to be absolutely just, especially in the face of disagreement, and don't force your opinion on everybody else. Okay, this is also the lesson that we learn from the fact that Haazinu is read after Yom Kippur. On the one hand, even though we're after Yom Kippur, Torah says don't trust yourself. I think like Rambo, it's after Yom Kippur. I can do anything. Nothing can stop me, right? I'm infallible. So even though it's after Yom Kippur, the heaven and earth testify. These witnesses, heaven and earth, are witnesses that last forever. Not only are they witnesses that last forever, always there watching us, so to speak, but besides that, these witnesses administer the consequences for our behavior. If we do what we're supposed to do, says the Talmud, says Rashi, the witnesses will give us the reward. The grapes will give their fruit, the earth will give its produce, the heavens will give their due. Besides the fact that the heaven and earth themselves remind us about the Torah. How so? Rashi says, God tells Jewish people, look at the heavens. I've created the heavens to serve you. Did the heavens change? Did the heavens get smaller or bigger? Look at the earth, God says. I created the earth to serve you. Did the earth get bigger or smaller? The earth stayed the same. So look at these inanimate creatures that God has made, that although they don't get rewarded or punished for their behavior, yet they are following what God told them exactly. They're not getting bigger or smaller, or how much more so. Should we look at the witnesses that are meant to testify to us that we should keep the Torah mitzvahs? Look at them and see how they're doing their job, and pay attention to yours. So they're witnesses in the sense, number one, that they are there to see us. Number two, they are there to reward us. And number three, they're an example for us of how we're supposed to behave. So why do we need witnesses? What's the point of witnesses? The reason we have to have witnesses, although we're after Yom Kippur, although we reach the highest level of tshuva, we have to caution, we have to pay attention that it's possible that without the witnesses, we wouldn't actually behave. It's possible we wouldn't behave the way we're supposed to. In other words, Hashem is reminding us by telling us that He needs to give us witnesses, so He needs to warn us. The fact that you need witnesses tells you that you're not infallible. That's the point of reading this Torah portion. Although it's after Yom Kippur, reach the highest level, you're not infallible. You need witnesses. You need to be cautioned about reward and etc. That's the first instruction we got from reading this Torah portion after Yom Kippur. On the other hand, another message from reading this Torah portion after Yom Kippur. Another message is, even though it's after Yom Kippur, and you reach the highest levels, and you have to go higher. A testimony is associated with the highest level. Why is a testimony associated with the highest level? In the Talmud, there's a concept called Milsa David Legluye. Usually, in order for it to be kosher testimony, you have to have kosher witnesses. But there are certain situations in which we trust not so trustworthy witnesses because it's something which is going to be exposed anyways. There are some things which are we assume people will not lie about. Like you could trust. We don't do this nowadays, but if you want to know if the milk that has fallen into your cholent has given any taste into the cholent, you could call over your non-Jewish next door neighbor and taste it, because he'll taste it. Oh, there's no taste in this cholent. Why? Because you'll be able to figure it out anyways yourself. He's not going to lie to you because
you wouldn't know the difference.
Because you wouldn't know the difference because you never tasted it before.
It's like amigo, right?
Like amigo, yeah, very good. So the Alter Rebbe says in the Nekuda this week, testimony, a real testimony, is only on something which is completely hidden, not something which is a little bit hidden and eventually be exposed. A solid testimony is needed when there's something which is completely hidden. And what is completely hidden? Testimony is associated with the Yud-Kei. It's associated with the higher worlds, the hidden worlds, which impact the higher and deeper powers of the soul. We're talking about something which is beyond the spiritual cosmos, something which does not have a vessel, something which no thought can grasp. And concerning this level, it says, Shivtei Ka Elis Yisrael, the tribes of Yud-Kei, testimony for the Jewish people. That we're talking about something which is so hidden that is beyond what we have reached in Yom Kippur. We reach Yom Kippur amazing, but testimony is what's happening now. Then we're reaching something which, compared to where we reach in Yom Kippur on this Shabbos, we're reaching something which is so far beyond it that you need testimony to reveal it. Meaning something which is so hidden, it's so beyond Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was amazing, yeah, but with this, it brings us to a place which is so far beyond Yom Kippur that compared to Yom Kippur, this is considered like a mystery that requires testimony to reveal it. And from reading this Torah portion, Haazinu, we come to the bracha of Yarech Kumat Lichi for the entire year. That should be a blessed year, that all things should come down in a comfortable way, spiritually, physically, both ruchnius and gashmius, and children, and health and parnasa, that all should be comfortable. That is the conclusion of this section of the Farbrengen. I'll take a question in a second. So the Rebbe basically says, what's the message we have from Kippur being Parshat Haazinu after Yom Kippur? Lesson number one is, Torah is telling us, you can't be satisfied with Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was meant to bring you to where it brought you, and now you're meant to go higher. And not just higher, but Haazinu indicates a testimony, which testimony is something which is hidden. You're supposed to reach a place now that, compared to where you need to get to, it's so beyond where you were that it's like a mystery. And don't trust yourself, keep on going higher. Yeah, go ahead.
So why is it that we read all of these prohibitions about sexual indiscretion, and we know that there is no witness for sexual indiscretion, right?
You mean on Yom Kippur?
Yes, on Yom Kippur.
The reason we read it is because although we're in such a high level in Yom Kippur, you might think that you don't have to focus on the lower parts of yourself. You might think they could trust yourself.
Right.
You're an angel, you're wearing a kittel, right. You're fasting all day.
Right.
So you read this section that tell us that you should also be aware of the other parts of yourself. Similar to the theme that I was talking about here. Yonatan has a screen on for a long time. Looks like he wants to say something. No? All right. Have a great day, Yonatan. Good Shabbos.
Good Yontif, good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Matukut Shabbos. Rabbi Shabbos David.
So, this is interesting.